Welcome to an Out of the Park 24 tutorial. In this tutorial, we're going to be going over game settings. I'm going to be showing you the game settings I play with, why I play with them. But one thing I really like about this video when I do it each year is when people comment about the game settings they play with. There's so many different settings you can play with, and especially with new features this year too. I think having a place to get feedback on game settings is good. I know that happens on the Reddit and the forums, but I'd love for you to let me know what you're seeing with the game, what settings you're playing with, especially if it's different from mine, because I make this video every year, and then as I play the game, because each version is different, I do change the settings some. So but I'm going to go into what I'm going to start with this year as of now, filming this on April 4th, and I think it'll be up on the channel sometime a little later this week. So you go to the game settings tab, and you've got a bunch of tabs here that then have sub tabs too. So I'll show you what I do. I pretty much leave scout OSA report history. I just keep one report per season. I don't need to keep all of them. Just some of this stuff is about making the file size more manageable, so your sim isn't a huge file, which maybe you care about, maybe you don't. I leave the rating scale 20 to 80, but then the overall ratings, I go to 20 to 80 in increments of 5. My brain just understands that better than stars, so that's why I do that. I do cut off at the max. So this is relative to all of Major League Baseball. If you turn it off, you can see if you enable the next setting. Oh wait, never mind. Sorry, I was so this is the bottom one. If you enable the setting here, overall ratings based on all players. If you enable the next setting, then overall potential position players based on all players instead of just the players of the same primary position. So basically, what they're saying is, like, I don't know. Let's say like a catcher, Sean Murphy, right? It's for Atlanta. Let's say, actually, we can just do it here. So overall based on all players, right? So you're going to go to Murphy, Sean, whose overall is a 70. That's surprising to all players. He started at 70. I thought he'd be lower than that. But his overall is a 70, right? And then we go back, and now it should be just relative to all catchers. Now, catcher is a weaker position than average, so I'd imagine you'd go up. It's all the same. Okay. So no big changes there. I thought the default was to have this off, but it's on, so I'll just leave that. I use the coaching system. I leave the cohesion. I allow this. I all leave alone. Owner goals I turn off. I know they've redone them this year. We can negotiate some of them, but not all of them. I just don't enjoy that aspect of the game. It might be your cup of tea. It's not mine. GM only users are always in control of lineups and hiring. So basically what this is like with your lineup, if you have a manager, so let's go to our manager screen here, personnel. I'm the manager, right? So if I had a here, let's go to a different team. Let's go to Arizona, right? Their manager in the majors here, good old Torrey. So he's going to have certain preferences of whether he likes to allow you to control the lineup, and whether he allows you to control the pitching rotation. So essentially, what you can do is, if you click this button, is even if the manager says he will not work for a GM who controls lineups, this will override that. And sometimes you'll have managers whose preference on this changes while they're on your team. So if you want to control the lineup and rotation always as GM, regardless of your manager preference, just check that box. I generally do that. I generally play with this box checked because I like to control my lineup and rotations. Over here is a bunch of features that can really help. Well, keep your save a little more stable, but also keep the file size smaller. I do auto save once a month. I would recommend doing it at least once a month. Some people do it once a week. Once a year just isn't enough in case the game crashes. I go with once a month. Box scores, I only save this from the team that I'm playing with. Game recaps, I do not play with. I just don't need them. Same with the The WPA graph, don't play with that. Game logs, I think I do keep just for human teams. Replays, never played with these on. Don't play with the highlights on. I've never played with those on. I don't save 3D movements. All of that just is going to make the game, the file size smaller. So like, if you play 30 years into the future, it maybe isn't going to like slow your computer down as much when you're loading it. I leave these alone. Prospect rankings annually, automatic preseason predictions, keep storylines on. I don't change the anything with the global financial coefficient. So that's the global settings. Players and teams. I generally keep all of these the same. I don't hide the injury rating, although that's a fun way to play the game. I keep injuries on normal. High is probably more realistic, but it's just there's so many injuries in baseball. And I leave this alone. Player fatigue, I leave that alone. So one thing I do change here is I show player personality ratings on the player profile. So check that. And let's go to Sean Murphy again. Why not? So Sean Murphy, what that's going to do is it's going to put his personality traits here instead of if he's like a captain, things like that. It's going to show you that right on his page, which I think is helpful. Like, I don't know why I would not want that there. So aging speed. This is an interesting one. I've played around with this one a bunch the last couple sims. Batter aging speed, I turned down just a touch. Like I've played with it at 0.8 and I was way too low. I even think 0.9 was a little too low, so I turned it down to 0.95. Now the development speed I turn up a little bit because I feel like batters don't develop quite quickly enough. The average guy, I think there's been a major shift in Major League Baseball recently, like over the last decade and a half, where players are coming up younger because front offices have realized that players are at their peak at an earlier age than we used to think. I don't know that necessarily Out of the Park has adjusted as well to that. I still think guys kind of are ready around like 24-ish a lot of times, and I think that's not always the case, obviously, but just kind of on average, I think hitters are ready too late. So I'm going to play with that turned up a little bit, this turned down a little bit. The pitcher aging speed, I also put that at 0.95. And then I leave the development speed for pitchers alone because pitchers really do develop much slower than hitters. All these, I leave TCR alone at 100. I know some people like to play with it up. This is basically just like how players are going to randomly become really good or really bad. Like if you look at some of the things the Dodgers have done in real life with Justin Turner, Max Muncy, these guys who have made adjustments later in their career and become star players way later than you would expect after, you might have thought the ship had sailed on them becoming that. Same with like JD Martinez when he revamped his swing after the Astros let him go. And I think he went to the Tigers. That was a while ago, like in the teens, the 2000 teens. So it'll have more things like that. I think it's fine where it is. I think there's pretty good TCR in the game. I know a lot of people turn this up though. I do not. I don't delete players who never reach the majors. I like to have the history. I've never done anything with this feature if it's been here. I don't do anything with reuse player IDs. Career left, right splits, I do keep all because I like to see splits over the long term. Same thing with fielding stats. If I have a prospect coming up through the minors, I like to look at how his fielding stats have been. Postseason, I just leave alone for majors only, and I don't keep any batter versus pitcher. The rest of this I don't touch. We go to face gen. I don't know. I leave that on sometimes, but I think you can turn it off. I don't really care that much about face gen, although you can do with it what you want and play around with all these settings. A lot of times I'll just turn it off though. Enable baseball cards is off as a default now. That has not been the case in the past. I agree with leaving it off. It just slows things down. Free agents can wear suits. I think that's a new feature. 99% sure that I've never seen that before. So I just kind of leave the rest of this alone. I don't play around with the face gen very much. But again, this is one of these things where, if you've got a really cool thing, let us know in the comments. Trading difficulty, they changed some things this year. The default difficulty is above the middle ground. The preference is in the middle, but I'll be interested to see like what the middle is this year, right? Oh wow, it's like 4 clicks. Oh, because it's a bigger scale, right? Because over the last few years, they've redone the trade AI where like this middle setting is harder than it was in previous versions. So I think I'm gonna start playing with the default suggestions here and see how it goes. This is one of those things where the AI trading difficulty is different every year because they tweak it and make it hopefully better. So it takes some playing around. I think until maybe Out of the Park 22, a lot of people got to the point where they turned the trade difficulty all the way up. But it's better now. The AI trading is way better, and I think this seems like a reasonable place to start here. Hard mode is, tells you right here what it is. You don't get instant feedback on trades. You can't quick make this work now. I think I'll play with this on to start. The reputation system essentially is like a counter to I think partially it's so you can't use hard mode as like a make this work now button, right? You can't like submit a trade and the other team's then like, yep, we're good. And then if you don't accept that trade, it gives your reputation a hit. So from what I've seen so far, the reputation system just needs some work. I really like the idea of it, but I think I'll probably play with it off and kind of police myself on reputation unless I see that it's improved. Because I just seeing posts around, it seems like people think it's not quite ready for prime time. So I'll probably play with that off. Trade deadline day time limit. I'll probably do 5 minutes to start, give myself some extra time to get used to the new feature. The ratings weight is really interesting. This is way different than the defaults in the past. Ratings, this is basically how the AI evaluates their players, all players in the game. It based off of ratings, current year, previous year, and 2 year ago stats. How much weight do you want to give each category? This ratings weight used to be well over 50%, so they've changed this. I generally play 45 here on ratings, 30 here on current year, 20 on previous year, and 5 on 2 years ago. So it's interesting that they're making the move more to stats. I actually like that. I think I'll probably try this to start and see how it goes, and then if I'm not happy with it, go back to the 45, 30, 25. So, again, all of these, the game's going to be different year to year with the AI and how good they are, how they've tweaked things. So I'll stick with the default on all this, but this is another one where I'd be really interested to hear people's experience so far with the trade settings, with the player AI, with the player evaluation AI settings, how that's going for you and what you're playing with. Because I think that's kind of like it. The more data points we can get, the better. The more people we can have weigh in on how it's working for them this year, the better. Almanac, I do not touch anything here. Database, I do not touch anything here. And then league settings is a whole thing. Look at all these sub tabs. So you can, this is where you can edit the league structure. Like if you want to add divisions or expand the league, things like that. I typically do this once I get into my sim a little bit. I normally go with like one big division in each league because I think that's more fun. But really, like, unless you want to change the structure of your league, there's not a lot you're gonna do here. These are gonna be big changes, like a fantasy draft. This is where the league expansion is. Sorry, and schedule a free agent draft. So yeah, these are pretty major changes, but I do play around with them some, especially editing the league structure. I'll change the divisions and the playoff system to be more what I think is best. Same thing here. You can rearrange divisions, all that, move teams around, change team nicknames. The rules are pretty interesting. I don't change a lot here. It's pretty much set up to run like Major League Baseball. With the DH in both leagues, the Ohtani rule, minimum batters faced, different extra innings for spring in the regular season. You can do it for the postseason. That'll be wild. So this is pretty much set up to be like the majors. I don't know that I'm going to leave the maximum number of options in a season as 5 on this year. I thought the AI had some difficulty with that last year, and there would be guys who would go up and down, up and down, up and down. and then they'd get put on waivers because they'd been optioned 5 times, but they were players who should not have been put on waivers. I just maybe think the AI isn't sophisticated enough to identify this rule and plan their options in advance around it, and then so they don't run out of option years on guys who shouldn't be on waivers. So, but it's another one. I'll be interested to see what other people are doing if they think it's better this year, but I really wasn't totally pleased with how that worked last year, so we'll probably turn this off for now. I'd like to turn it off. So trading is on. This is the new trade deadline day setup. I do allow trading of injured players. I think that's fine. I think the AI trading frequency, from what I've seen, is going to need to go down unless they adjust this baseline. In the couple sims that I've done, I've just kind of let a season run, messed around. I think I'm gonna have to go to at least low here unless it gets changed, because there are just too many trades and crazy trades like Jason Dominguez getting traded for Gio Urshela. It needs a little bit of work. I'm sure in some patches this will be touched up. The amateur draft. So I like to change the date of the amateur draft. The reason I like to do this is because one, I like to know long before the trade deadline, like if I have leftover money from the draft, and two, I like for my drafted players to get in as much of the rookie ball season as possible. So, if you draft in mid-July, they might not get any rookie ball that year. So I like to change it back to early June, where it was before Major League Baseball made that change, for those reasons. I leave everything else alone here. I don't change the draft lottery. Financials, I really don't change anything here. I think you can turn on inflation. I think that's probably here somewhere. Yearly inflation. So I don't change a lot here. It looks like inflation is now default, which is interesting. I don't remember that being the case in the past. I don't change anything with service time. Leave all that alone. So yeah, this is all just pretty much set up to run. Minimum buyout amount. Is that new? I might like to turn that up. I don't think I've messed around with that before. I like to leave all this because it's all pretty realistic. It's pretty much like Major League Baseball. The default options there. This options tab is where you can customize a lot of stuff. I generally think I might turn off evolution this year because I almost always undo these things when they happen. Like they'll get rid of the DH or they'll bump up the service time requirements to get to free agency. Maybe I'll leave on like expansion, location, and team nickname and turn off the rest just because I don't really generally like the things that it does. You can change the name of your awards here. Like you can, make this the Gold Glove, make this the Silver Slugger like they are in real life. I sometimes bother with that. I sometimes don't. I don't really mess with much of that. And I sometimes will change spring training to 6 weeks to get more looks at my players. But I generally leave all this alone. Here's where you can change your playoff structure if you want to, which I do when I restructure the league. Players, so I used to turn the international free agents way up, but they've already made way more this year. 120 as a default is higher than it's been in previous versions. I still think I might go to like 180 to see what happens just for fun, and leave everything else the same. The international scouting discoveries per team, I don't think they're as necessary this year because you can sign more than just one international free agent. I think it was a good way to supplement the fact that you didn't get enough international free agents to have it be realistic. So, maybe 8 is good. Maybe I'll go with 2. I think it used to be a lot more than this, but I like that it's way down. I think 8 is fine. I also turn off the generate international established free agents. I just thought there were too many good players that pop up. I haven't played with it in several years, so if I'm missing something, you guys can let me know. But I just turned that off a while ago because I just found that I could sign 2 or 3 decent players in free agency for generally cheaper contracts than they should have been. So I just find it more challenging to play without that. I don't know what I'll do with independent leagues. Maybe I'll just probably leave that at default to start. Historical, I don't do anything here. Stats and AI. This is something on the right. Your league totals are basically like what kind of offensive environment do you want to play in, right? baseball in like 2021 was a much different offense environment than like 1980. So you can pick the year here of what you want the league offense and pitching and defense kind of totals to match. I used to do 2016 because I thought that was like it had a lot of the higher power and strikeout numbers that we've seen baseball go to, but it wasn't like that exaggerated rabbit ball era of like 2019, 2021. But I think it's honestly baseball's back to the point now where I'm fine leaving it as the current year. I don't know how these modifiers compare to like what I used to play on in 2016, but I left this alone last year in Out of the Park 23 and for the first time in a few versions and was totally happy with it. The rest of this I generally leave alone. I don't change the stamina. I don't change things over here on the hook, how quick they hook. I am going to ban infield shifts. I think this is generally set up to be like modern day baseball. If I'm missing something and you guys think something should be changed, by all means, again, let me know. And I leave all this alone because it's the AI roster setting because it's set up to be like Major League Baseball. So that's the end of the game settings tutorial. Again, I just wanted to show you guys what I play with, why I play with it, but also kind of like have a conversation too in the comments. Leave some info, and hopefully it'll give people other ideas, or you can let people know where I've gone terribly wrong and I've misled people. But thank you for watching, and I will talk to you guys in the next video.